Hey guys, Nate Taylor here, and today we're answering the commonly asked question, what computer monitor to buy for video editing and color grading. And as we go through these different monitors, we'll be covering 10 important things to look for when buying a monitor and how each of these monitors performs in these categories. The first thing to look for is obviously price. The other things we're going to cover is screen size, resolution and aspect ratio, color accuracy and panel types, HDR and its ratings versus SDR, screen brightness and contrast ratio, port options and refresh rates, latency, and build design, and VESA mountable. Monitors can honestly cost you anywhere from $100 to $6,000. And like most things, generally speaking, you get what you pay for. The first one coming in at about $100, the Asus 23-inch Full HD monitor. This monitor is great for the price, but unfortunately it doesn't offer a lot of features that these other monitors have that you will need as a video editor. The next option is coming in under $400, and that is the LG 32-inch UHD HDR10 monitor coming in at $329. We'll talk about why this monitor is probably my favorite one that we'll review today, so stay tuned to check that out. This next one jumps in price a little bit between the $1,000 and $2,000 range. The recommended monitor I would use here is the LG Ultrafine 4K UHD HDR600 monitor. This one I've been using for the last year or so, and I love it. It is this one that you see right here. I have it mounted above my ultra wide, which we'll also talk about a little bit, and the main reasons why Parker and I don't use this monitor as our main monitor anymore. On the higher budget end, Apple definitely rules the arena with their Pro monitor coming in at $6,000. Monitors like this Apple monitor are for very high-end productions and where money really isn't an issue. For 99% of humans, this monitor is not worth it. Most of you with your setups wouldn't need or be able to take advantage of the features that the really high-end monitor options have to offer. Now, once you've decided your budget, the next thing to look for is size. Monitors come in a bunch of different sizes. All except the Asus we have are 32 inches, and that is for a reason. The 23-inch Asus, although budget friendly, is not enough for video editing in our opinion. Now, both Parker and I have used the 38-inch ultra wide before and have since come back to the 32-inch option just because it's the perfect size. The monitor I am currently using is the LG Ultrafine 32-inch for $1,300. Its 32-inch screen offers just enough real estate to house all of the window options you need on screen. Although I love and would recommend the 32-inch, you may want something a bit bigger like LG's 38-inch monitor, coming in at around $1,600. The benefits to the larger widescreen are the ability to see your whole timeline while editing, and just having that wider curved screen makes it easier on your eyes. But there is a downside to wide monitors, which will take us to our next point, aspect ratios and resolution. The ultra-wide monitors are great for the screen real estate, but at a 21:9 aspect ratio, they cannot play the typical 16:9 videos at full screen. So you'll be stuck with the large black bars on either side of the video when you watch your videos back, unless you export at 21:9 like Parker's Thailand video. But most monitors, unless otherwise specified, will have a 16:9 aspect ratio. Another big thing with monitors is resolution. If you're editing in 4K and you can swing the cost of a 4K or higher monitor, go for the higher resolution. On the other hand, if your existing editing system is only 1080p and you're not ready to upgrade to the greater processing power needed to run a 4K monitor, you can edit your 4K footage using proxies while viewing on a 1080p monitor. Lower res footage can be displayed on a higher res monitor, although it will be smaller in a more windowed form. So if you wanted to upgrade your monitor to 4K first, you can. Of course, if you're color grading in any significant way, you'll be better off opting for the 4K resolution. There are a couple more things to keep in mind with resolution and how you shoot. If your camera records 4K video in DCI 4K, then you'll want a DCI 4K monitor. If your camera records in UHD 4K, the more commonly used resolution, then you'll want a 4K UHD monitor. Where 4K is on its way to becoming the industry standard over 1080p, I would highly recommend on your next monitor to pick up one with 4K resolution to future-proof your investment. One of the reasons why resolution is so important is color accuracy. For color grading, you need a monitor with an IPS LCD panel, as it gives better viewing angles and supports pro color spaces. IPS monitors are defined by the shifting patterns of their liquid crystals. LED stands for light emitting diode, and it is a type of backlight technology with displays. This display technology utilizes LEDs to light up each pixel's content. LED technology monitors offer a brighter display but lack in color and contrast you need to see a clear exposed image. All LED monitors are technically LCD monitors, but not all LCD monitors are LED. This may seem confusing, but basically both types of displays are liquid crystals to help create an image, with the difference being the backlight. Monitors with wide color gamut like Adobe RGB RGB, DCI-P3, and Rec. 709 are ideal because they offer exponentially finer color detail compared to older standards. Now, another technical part to color in a monitor is the calibration of colors to make sure they are as accurate as can be. If you don't like the idea of creating a routine to calibrate your monitor, buy one that comes with a calibration software or comes pre-calibrated from the factory, which most LG monitors do. The reason why the Asus is so cheap is because of the LED display and the lack of tools you need as an editor. This is why you will find monitors to get more expensive quickly is due to their color accuracy and their contrast ratios. Contrast ratios and HDR content go hand in hand. I want to talk about HDR and the different ratings real quick because that was confusing to me when I got started. High dynamic range or HDR displays deliver better contrast and color accuracy as well as more vibrant colors compared to standard dynamic range or SDR displays. As a result, HDR is huge when it comes to the creation of photo and video content. It displays whiter whites and blacker blacks. You may be confused and ask, well, isn't white just white and black black? Not exactly. VESA Certified Display HDR is the standard for determining the best ratings for a monitor's ability to display HDR content. These VESA Certified HDR screens are able to show the correct level of white and black so that your content is perfectly exposed. HDR10 or HDR400, which is the most common, adjusts brightness by the whole screen. Hence why the blacks can't be true black because there's a slight bit of light coming through the black. Because of this reason, some may say it is not true HDR, but I think it's a great option for those on a budget setup for a content creator. But let's say you have an HDR400 true black monitor. These are way more expensive, but that screen adjusts brightness by pixel. Just like Parker's LG OLED display TV, the pixels are able to turn off to show you true blacks. I will provide links to read more about this, but what I would recommend you do is buy a monitor with HDR 600 or more. The VESA scheme is largely linked to the display's maximum peak brightness capability, with each number representing the backlight's max brightness spec. For example, VESA Display HDR400 is for screens that can reach 400 peak brightness. HDR 600 are for those that can reach 600, and so on. Peak brightness is pretty important for an HDR display, as you need to be able to produce brighter highlights and more lifelike bright images to improve the overall experience. The whole point of HDR is to actually improve the dynamic range. The actual peak brightness requirement to create a decent HDR display is somewhat debatable, perhaps even more so in the desktop monitor market. Some might consider 1000 peak brightness to be the benchmark because a lot of professional content is mastered to those levels, and because it's become quite common in the TV market, but others may actually prefer something a bit more modest like the 600 peak brightness, which is what I have. The LG 32-inch Ultrafine is the only monitor we're reviewing today with the HDR 600 certification, but the Apple monitor features an HDR 1000 rating, which is one of the best that you can get. The bare minimum I would suggest is HDR 400, which the lower end LG offers. Asus doesn't even advertise an HDR rating. Now let's talk about contrast ratios. Simply put, the contrast ratio of a monitor is the measured difference between the darkest blacks and the brightest whites a display is capable of producing. This is expressed in ratio form such as 4000 to 1. The larger the first number, the higher the contrast ratio of the monitor and the more difference there is between the pure black and pure white. This is particularly important if the monitor is being used for photo and video editing, as images generally look better if blacks are really black and whites are really white. Now let's talk refresh rate. If you're serious about video editing, especially precise editing, then the topics of refresh rate and response time are likely of great importance to you. Refresh rate refers to screen refreshes. Essentially, each refresh is an individual frame or image. The more refreshes per second, measured in hertz, the smoother the image will look to the human eye, at least in theory. Refresh rate corresponds to frame rate, also known as FPS. And while they aren't technically the same thing, they do impact one another. In essence, your maximum refresh rate is also the maximum frame rate that your screen can actually display. If your frame rate exceeds your refresh rate, you will be hit with nasty artifacts called screen tearing. While screen tearing won't ruin your video or anything, it can be fairly distracting. And that's why VSync, G-Sync, FreeSync, and other technologies exist to simplify the difference between refresh rate and frame rate. Remember this. Refresh rate refers to the monitor's refreshes per minute. Frame rate refers to the app's refreshes. Now some of you may ask, can I just use an OLED TV for my monitor? Unfortunately not, and let me tell you why. Monitors may be smaller than the average TV, but there's no need for them to be as large. They're designed for close-up use and have sharper, more detailed picture than a television. To see what I mean, try sitting as close to your TV as you do your computer. You'll find the TV image is less distinct and more fuzzy. This is because monitors generally have more pixels per inch than televisions. This means they they can display in very fine detail, especially useful with text. Televisions are designed for viewing while you're sitting across the room, so they don't need to be able to produce such close-up detail. So, if you compare a 32-inch monitor against a 65-inch TV with the same resolution, the monitor will always be able to produce a sharper image. The pixels become more and more spaced out the bigger the screen becomes, so the text and fine details become blurry and hard to read properly. In essence, a monitor is designed to be the optimal visual interface for a computer. A TV, no matter how sharp, is primarily designed to be a TV. Now let's talk about port options. Depending on what your primary machine is you edit off of, you will need to determine what you need to make the screen work. All of the displays apart from the Apple feature HDMI display ports. Apple uses the USB-C to allow that ultra-fast data transfer that you need when running a 6K resolution screen. The more expensive LG uses USB-C as well as HDMI so that you can use it with more machines. The budget LG uses a DisplayPort and 2 HDMI ports, so if you were on an Apple device, you would have to get a dongle to connect to these screens. Alright guys, that's it for today's video. I know there's a lot of technical information in there, so I hope this helps you in your journey for finding the best display for you. And please, as always, if you have any further questions for me, please let me know.